Take a stare. Pick up if you're there. I'm at this place on Eagle Boulevard called Noir.
You got me burning. You got me burning. You got me burning in the third degree. You got me burning. You got me burning.
And we're back!
You're between two dumbbells. I'm your host, Skip Hill, and I'm bringing over 40 years of bodybuilding experience to the table, including over 24 years of online coaching. I'm joined today by Dr. Marv, aka the Educated Meathead. This show cannot work if one of us isn't super smart. That's not me. For each show, we posit a thought about a training exercise or training methodology, and then we deep dive into the minutia. We might argue and debate, or we might agree and tell each other how smart we both are. But at the end of the discussion, we decide if we smash or pass the topic of the day. Of course, we'll also be doing another segment of Intimate Time with Skip and Dr. Marv, and then we'll finish with usually listener questions, but today we have to announce the winners for the month of April for the Team Skip Protein, Team Skip shirt, and Dr. Marv's online bodybuilding anatomy course. So that'll be cool. Remember, every time you comment on the show on YouTube, you'll be included in a drawing at the end of each month to receive what I just said. Team Skip t-shirt, Dr. Marv's online bodybuilding course. And if you ask a question and we use the question on the show, you'll be entered into a drawing for a 5-pound tub of Team Skip protein from TrueNutrition.com. Dr. Marv, I'm excited about this one. I'm worked up. I'm depleted. I'm hungry. My feet are like cinder blocks, but I'm excited about this one.
Performance chiropractic and sports medicine in the Houston Bay Area, telemedicine and nutrition coaching all over Texas. And if you're not in Texas, don't worry. You still do consults through the educatedmeathead.com, where you also find workout programs, seminar recordings, and online courses.
I posit this. I think we have a problem in our industry. I know we do. And it's coming to a head, and I like it. Tensions are rising essentially between the evidence-based trainers and the academia/studies group, and neither side seems to want to respect the position of the other side. Coach Kassem had Victor Black on his show to discuss the issue, and I thought it might go sideways. I wasn't sure, and I don't usually watch shows. I don't watch or listen. I kind of stay focused on what I'm doing and let everybody do their thing. But it was, I don't want to say it was profound, but there was a lot of things discussed in a relatively positive fashion that I was surprised by. In fact, not typically a big fan of Victor's, but he said some things that I thought, man, I'm on the same page with you there. And Coach Kassem as well. Coach Kassem, what's good about this guy is he's very much open to discourse. I thought maybe it was a facade at first, kind of a, hey, I want some discourse. Let's discuss this, and I'll reel you in, and I'll kind of subtly, mess with you. And that's not really what he did. He kind of let Victor have the microphone. I know he's offered Paul Carter the same thing. There have certainly been shots fired between Paul Carter and Coach Kassem too. So this is just, I only mention these three because I just saw this show recently, and there's a riff there. And essentially it's academia versus, and I know I'm oversimplifying it, but that's essentially what it is. Academia, or the studies group, versus the evidence-based group. So before I expound more, can you briefly explain to the viewers or the listeners, what does evidence-based mean to you? And I want to hear your thoughts on why you think these two sides can't seem to find or don't want to find any common ground.
Yeah. So if you look at what the actual definition of what evidence-based, whether it's medicine, coaching, whatever, if you're truly evidence-based, it is a 3 item deal. So it's a stool, and ideally all 3 legs are even, so you have a nice level stool. So and then to clarify for listeners, when you're saying evidence-based, you're saying what academia would call bro science, correct?
Absolutely.
So anecdotal
Absolutely.
experience. Okay, so true evidence-based, we'll call it training or whatever for the purpose of our show, is what does the research say? So yes, literature, studies, but that's not it. And everybody, you're correct, everybody either goes in on one or the other. I'm like, it should be equal. So it's what the research says, anecdote, aka experience, aka bro science, aka what people are calling evidence-based in the context of the conversation of Victor Black and Coach Kassem. And then also just preference, whether that's you, the trainer, or the coach, or the person you're coaching, right? So it should be 3 things. For some reason, and I don't quite understand it, and I will give myself a little bit of some kudos, which I normally don't do. I'm very uncomfortable accepting praise. I think I do a pretty good job, though, of kind of going back and forth between anecdote and research. Like, I think I do a pretty good job at that. But they won't listen to each other. For starters, you should never agree with anybody 100%. Ever, because then you're just parroting. It's an echo chamber. There is no critical thought. There is no critical discussion. There is no moving forward. Like, ideally, you find somebody you agree 70 to 90% with, but then that 10 to 30%, one, it's fun to have conversations like this.
Sure.
But 2, you might be like, shit, I didn't think about it that way. Like, if you're only sipping the Kool-Aid of whoever you're following or promoting, or you're their disciples or their entourage, whatever word you want to use, like, it's basically our two-party political system where no matter what my side says, I am with them 100%. Like, that shouldn't be that way. So where's critical thought? Now, is it way harder to have critical thought and maybe be like, I normally like this guy, but on this case, I disagree with them? Abso-freaking-lutely. And we live in an age of short sound bites that are incredibly ultimatum, black or white. And guess what? True experts don't do statements like that. True experts say, it depends, maybe, I don't know. Like, I say I don't know at least 3 to 4 times in the office every single month, at least. And then I research and I learn. You're never going to have all the answers. Anybody who always has all the answers, that is a huge red flag, as is people who will not have any sort of in-person debate. Because right now we have all these, we'll get into it, I call them PubMed warriors, but we also now have all these Chat GPT warriors to where if they get to put out content on their own, it's this crazy in-depth stuff, but they are incapable of having a live conversation because they're literally relying on AI to give them the information. So then they could fake themselves as experts, but they really don't know the material.
Where does ego play into this? I've got my own opinion on it, but I'm curious what you think.
Yeah.
I think it's massive. Quite frankly, it's probably the main reason that so many people speak in absolutes as kind of an authority figure. And listen, I'm the first to admit that I am not a big fan of the studies. I've said it. There are plenty of reels out there with me saying it. Of course, some of it's a little clickbaity. I don't want to say misleading, but, to get you in so that you can hear my opinions on what I think of this. But because I have so much experience in this, in the industry, whether it be training or gear or whatever else, I have a hard time reading and understanding and deciphering the studies, which is funny because I don't know. I've written for a long time. I think I have a pretty extensive vocabulary. When it comes to reading these, I literally will have the study on one side and Google on the other because I have to Google terms because I'm like, what the hell is that? I have a hard time following it. It's similar to when I read something from Dr. Scott Stevenson. He's so next level from me that I need someone to translate it because I can't understand it. So that's part of it. The other part of it is I think to myself, and maybe this is the ego part. I think to myself, I have years and years, 4 decades of knowledge and experience. I don't need this study to tell me that this is what causes hypertrophy and this is what doesn't. And I've got my own hangups about it because of the control of variables and things like that. I think it's a very, very gray area for what we're trying to study or what we're trying to figure out versus whether this cures cancer or this kills, it kills this type of virus or anything, which is pretty black and white. So we have this massive, massive gray area. So it's easy for me to fall back. And I think it is for a lot of trainers who have a lot of experience and don't have the background in academia to fall back on, I've been doing this a long time, but here's the difference. I think this is the difference. And you can call me on this, really, if you don't see it this way. Excuse me.
I will choose decades of experience to somebody in academia and school. I just will.
Well, I will too, but that's easy for me to say because I have that bias.
Well,
obviously the best connection.
Yes, correct. I'm representing the academia side to some sort of extent. I still will choose.
Okay, good point.
Years of
the
experience
best combination is both.
You have both. Exactly. Yeah. And I think both sides think they're holier than thou or better than the other side, which I don't understand. Like, your goal should be to get better, but that is a growth mindset. That's not, a lot of people don't like that. Like, every time I do a podcast or I do a seminar, I literally ask people, like, what did I do wrong? How can I get better? Every single time. Like, all I care about is getting better and getting it right. I don't care if I have to retract something. In fact, if you've been following somebody for, say, 3, 4, 5 years, and they haven't said, hey, I changed my mind on a certain topic, that is also a red flag.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like way more respect. We already talked about the guy who created rice and then, how he said he got it wrong. Like, man, so much more respect. That's how it should be, but that's not how it's done. And then the issue is people don't want to have a critical conversation. And then in the world of social media, if somebody disagrees with you, what do you do now? You just block. So you're only getting people chiming in who are following you and agreeing with you. The second anybody puts anything negative out, I'm going to block them. I'm going to delete the comment. That creates an echo chamber. So that's why we have all of these like hardcore camps where it's almost like the leader of these camps are almost like cult leaders and they're being worshiped and they're the greatest thing ever in their circle. I loved how Victor Black called them circle jerks. I listened to part of the episode just when you brought it up. Like I was like, that's harsh, but that's pretty damn good terminology.
A lot of what he said, I really had to agree with. He made some really good points.
Yeah. And the big thing is the expert side of things of it depends and there's context and there's minutia. It doesn't sell. So who has the biggest followings and biggest names? People who speak in black or white, because it's marketing now. We're in the age of marketing, not good information, which is unfortunate. That
brings me to this question. Do we want the answer? Do we want there to be an answer, or do we want to, I don't want to say push, an agenda, but push our marketing concept or as an example, I have, my training program, I have my dieting methods. Someone else has different dieting methods that may be, specific to them. Obviously there's parallels, no one's reinventing the wheel. But do we want the answer or do we want there to be always be ambiguity so that it isn't clear? Or is the answer just not clear? I'm going to say that it's not clear. I do not think for 1 second that there is one best way to grow. I don't think there's one best way to diet or one best gear protocol. I think it is so individualized that it doesn't even come down to the methods as much as it does the ability to assess as a trainer and the ability to be able to analyze feedback and be able to make the changes and the adjustments moving forward. So, and I understand we could be talking about two different things because there are some people who don't necessarily work with clients and their whole business model is providing information. Coach Kassem is in that realm too. That's his thing. and he made a good point. He kind of, and I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, I am going to try to not speak the loudest, but speak to the biggest amount of people that I can, and repetitively and frequently, and just get the information out there and let those people make those decisions for themselves, versus stressing about or arguably letting his ego get in the way, saying this is the best way to do this. And I see him as a maybe you don't, I don't know. I see him as pretty well balanced between the study academia side and the evidence-based side too, unless someone kind of comes at the academia side, and then he kind of he tends to defend it. But maybe that's because that's his wheelhouse. I get it. Same thing with Victor Black. That's one of the things I can relate to him about. I understand and empathize with the fact that Victor's been around for a long time. He does know his shit. He has a lot of really good information. So he feels, this is my take on it. He feels like, I have taught all these people, I have given so many people all this information, and they learned it from me, and then they run over here, and because they can market really well, they get all this attention, and it bothers him. It flat out bothers him. But I can relate to that. I understand. I've had people steal my methods, whether it be skip loading or anything, and they don't want to call it skip load. It's just an example. But the point is it happens. It's unfortunate that it happens, but it happens. It's just the times we live in. It's the industry. It just happens. I have to wonder, though, if when that happens to me, if I shouldn't be looking at it going, maybe you just need to get better at marketing, Skip. And where Victor, I think sometimes he's bothered by the fact that he is not respected for being evidence-based. And I get that too. He's not respected by the academia side. You've had a long time. You could get involved in the academia side. And there may be reasons that he doesn't want to. Maybe he feels, as I do, that there isn't much credibility. It's a massive gray area. Why do I need to be involved in academia and do all these studies that are just going to prove what I'm saying over here based on the evidence that I have over all these years? So if that's what he's saying, I can understand that too. The only hang-up I have with Victor, the only hang-up I've ever had with Victor is, and why I don't listen to him very often, is he emotes. He gets worked up, and there are occasions where he will go after people in kind of a red herring, straw man, ad hominem type of thing. And anytime anybody does that, I am going to write you off. Paul does it. Paul Carter does it too. Paul knows his shit. He has a lot of experience. He knows his shit. I've never questioned that. But the way he delivers the information and the way that he comes at people, to me, is off-putting. And he can do what he wants to do. He can present the information any way he wants to present it. Maybe it's because of marketing. Maybe it's, I don't know. He's bumptious. He Rodman-Todd. I don't know why. I don't know what the motivation is, other than he's trying to make a living and he's trying to stay relevant. I get it. I'm right there with you. I understand that. That's the only hang-up I have. I don't have a hang-up with either one of them. Coach Kassem either. They're putting out good information. I do tend to think that Coach Kassem, what I know of him, he delivers the information in a way that isn't off-putting, and he gives you the opportunity for discourse, arguably discord. So for anybody who doesn't know, discourse is just a discussion or a debate. Discord, that's where you disagree. It can get nasty. It kind of can go down the wrong path. It can be, it can be negative, and there's really no harmony or agreement. But we don't all have to agree either. That's okay too. But I will say this, and I very verbose, I get it, but I got a lot on my brain. If you're not willing to have a debate, and Coach Kassem hit it out of the park with this one. If you're not willing to debate your opinions or the things that you state as fact, and there's a difference. That's why I like to say semantics are important. I like to say these are my opinions based on my experience, because then you can take them or leave them. But when you're speaking in absolutes and you're speaking matter-of-factly and you're speaking as an authority, you have to, in my opinion, be willing to discuss, debate, and have discourse, because if you don't, I'm not going to give you any credibility. None, zero, nada. So blocking someone or going after someone or ad hominem strawman bullshit, that tells me you can't back up your argument. You can't back up your opinions. To me, I'm not listening to you. I'm not speaking for anybody else. Plenty of people listen to a lot of people for whatever reason, but I'm not doing it. Rant's over, but only for a couple minutes.
Yeah. I mean, you said a lot. Do we really want to know the answer? Well, if there's ambiguity, that creates income for most people in the space. So yeah.
And
Like we
niche.
talked about, like we talked about last episode, and I'll do a little bit of a rant on research one more time in a little bit, but you could find studies to back up both whatever side of the argument you want to be on, right? And we'll talk about the Ansel keys in a second. The big thing though is the end goal should be, what can you follow consistently, no matter what it is? Training, nutrition. If you are somebody who uses super supplements, that's not the scope of the show, because consistent adherence to a subpar program will always outperform sporadic adherence to a so-called perfect program. And
No
guess what?
question.
There's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. So a lot of times people speak in fact, and that is nails on a chalkboard to me. It is a marketing ploy. I understand that. That's why I don't have a big name, because I don't speak in ultimatums. And I don't do the clickbaity green screen showing somebody's video, oftentimes the most random shit nobody'd ever believe. So, Dr. Lane Norton, he was much needed in the industry at the time he came up. I don't like how he goes about it. There's a guy in my world, Adam Meekins, does the same thing, where they'll show the most random treatments that no sane person would do, and he trashes it. Now, they have bigger followings. That's a marketing ploy. I hate that. I cringe at that. That's why you and I had to have a big discussion of how is this conversation going to go, because I'm not going to do the Greg Doucette making fun of people, being ugly, name calling, emoting, blah, blah, blah. That's just not how I roll, right? I think that's okay. So fine, people could call me out. I think that's immature, and I think that's childish. When somebody starts calling people names or emoting or going after somebody's significant other, like one of the people we've talked about, I'm not even going to say who, like going after somebody else's significant other, like, what are we in 5th grade? Like,
Yeah.
right. And if you are
I
an
agree.
expert, you should be open to having conversations and discussing your ideas. And that's the big issue in the world we live in. And then what happens in your algorithm. So, I mean, I feel bad for newbies in the gym, because if you get the algorithm on social media on a certain circle jerk area, that's all you're going to see. You have no idea what else is out there. And that creates an issue as well. So
should we understand that there are more than, or there's more than one authority? It's okay for other people to be experienced in the same area or in the same realm that you are or I am. It's okay, guys.
There's more than
I've
one
got a
way
big
to-
enough ego. I've got an ego too, but I understand that there's not one way or one path or one avenue to get to the final destination.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So like, the ends justify the means, so long as you get to the same spot. Now, of course, there's, certain methods will probably be a little bit less risky than others, but you could still get to the same spot. So then a lot of it comes down to, what can you consistently follow? What do you enjoy?
Very good point. And that is incredibly individual.
Yes. Because like, I should be doing higher volume reps in reserve. Whenever I'm able to do it for a couple months at a time, my body responds beautifully. I am so freaking bored I go back to low volume, gun to the head, 1 to maybe 3 sets maximum for a body part for the entire workout. I enjoy that. That's just, I gravitate towards that.
I can give you an
but then
example
again,
with dieting.
yeah.
It's the same way with skip loading. There are
Yes.
people who will come to me and they will literally say, I can't do a show because I can't deal with the antiquated old school method of eating rice and chicken every single day for the next 20 weeks. I need to be able to break away, and instead of just having more rice, I want to have something that's tasty that will reset my mind, reset my metabolism, and that works. Now, it also works for people who can eat chicken and rice all the time. But the point is that can be appealing to that specific type of person. So I get it. I totally get that. Let me make this point though, because I think it's important. If anybody listening is wondering, is Skip digging into the drama end here? That's not the case. We discussed this. You and I discussed this at length. And I said, I wanted to be able to come at this and present it in a way that emphasizes that I think this is great in the sense that anybody who enjoyed the message boards back in the day and does what I do, oh man, I miss the message boards. I miss that debate. I miss people having to justify and stand behind their ideas and be judged in that community on whether they're credible or whether those methods stand up or not. And when we got into social media, we got away from that. And I think that's why it's so popular, because we have so much control over what we discuss and who we discuss it with. Oh, I don't like your response, so bye, you're blocked. Couldn't do that on the message board. So what this does, in my opinion, and what I mean by this is what Coach Kassem has started to do is invite the discourse and invite the discussion. And that gets us into the debate realm again that has been missing, in my opinion, from the industry since the message board. And I understand there's still a couple message boards. Professional muscle is still strong. But by and large, the vast majority of us complain because that's not the milieu. That's not the environment now that we live in as a society, which I think is funny. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but we get away from the message boards, but then there's Reddit and Quora. Like what? Like, okay, that format, the old school message board format with the threads was outdated and that doesn't work. So we're going to take a break from it for 8 or 10 years. And then we're going to come back to massive message boards where everything's in one place. It's so bizarre to me, but apparently a lot of people saw, well, we kind of like this concept. Now it's toned down. You can't argue and debate like we used to. It would be nasty on the message boards. But these same people, some of these same people who are relevant now were not relevant in the message board era, not because they didn't have the experience, but because people would beat the shit out of them for the way they delivered information and no one would listen to them and they didn't give them any credibility. So tell me that's not marketing. Tell me that's not picking and choosing or cherry picking who's listening to you, who you're providing your information to. And then all of a sudden you've got your minions standing behind you going, man, you're so smart. You're a super genius. Now, I don't want that to come across as I am envious of that. If I had issues with that, I'd be more in the marketing, end of things, and I would learn that stuff, and that's how I would go. I put out my information, I put out my opinions, take them or leave them. You either see value in it, you see credibility in it, you see experience and the amount of time that I have spent in the industry, or you don't. Okay. You don't want to skip load. Don't skip load. Eat chicken and rice every day. I'm cool with it. You know what? It works. I'm doing that right now. It's working incredibly well. Different avenues to get to the same destination. And I'm glad, this is my motivation for this topic. I was just really happy to see that Coach Kassem was providing that opportunity, because honestly, and I don't want to speak for him, but I'm not sure he's a big fan of Victor's or Paul's for that matter. They've had shots fired, but he's still willing to offer that discourse. That says a lot to me about Coach Kassem's confidence in the things that he is saying and the information that he's putting out. So I want to high five this one.
Mhm.
Notice how I decrescendoed there. I'm getting better. I'll still drop F-bombs, but you won't hear them.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
implied.
we people forget, like, you're allowed to disagree with somebody on
Mhm.
a specific area. Like, I don't know when that became like outdated old school. You're allowed
Social
to say,
media, when our ego took
yeah.
over.
correct.
We
Like,
don't
I
have
agree on
to.
9 out of these 10 things. Let's have a fun discussion about the one thing we disagree on,
Yeah.
and we'll both give our arguments. And then, hey, I might learn something from you, you might learn something from me. But that just, it doesn't happen anymore.
So can we, that brings me to this question. Can we come together the evidence-based side? This is what I hope for.
Yeah.
That we can come together, the evidence-based side can, I don't want to say work with, but come to the table with the academia side. And you know what? In fairness, the academia side can put down their egos as well. Oh, I'm so smart over here. I don't have a lot of experience in the gym. I'm not big, which quite frankly, our entire industry, our society judges people not just on what they know, but how they carry themselves, whether they're attractive, whether they're in good shape, that sort of thing. I don't know how many times we've all said, I'm not, you're going to work with a trainer who doesn't walk the walk. I'm certainly not going to take my money to a guy who lives in a van down by the river and tells me that I need to invest my money over here when he doesn't, it looks like he doesn't have any clue what he's talking about, you know, from a financial standpoint. So you do have to walk the walk, but can we not come together at some point? And this is what I'm hoping, is that this type of discourse will be able to do that. And even if we can't come together, there's more discussion so that everybody around can kind of go, I like what he's saying over here on the evidence-based side. Oh, and I like the fact that they're saying over there, and then they're putting things together. And even though it's an individual, a very, very individual thing as far as how people respond, they'll be more knowledgeable in the end, and they'll be able to make better decisions and optimize their training, diet, supplementation. Yay, we advance instead of these two sides just bickering and fighting, and you're dumb and you're stupid and don't do this, and oh, I blocked you and you suck and your wife's a whore. I don't know if that's what was said, but it was something nasty, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah, both parties are at fault. Both of them have to open minds and have a discussion. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of a rant again. It's my turn. Because a lot of the, what I jokingly call PubMed warriors, is the younger generation. They're typically less than 200 pounds, and they're talking about optimal training biomechanics. I'm like, how about you just learn how to progressively overload first and foremost? All the meathead biomechanics I always show, the course I put, I'm like, this is all really cool details. But if you're not training hard, you're not getting stronger, you're not getting progressively overloading, like, this is mistaking the forest for the trees. You have to have a foundation. Now this is the cherry on top.
But do they think they're saving time?
See, that's the problem. They're going straight to a sniper rifle. You got to start with a damn shotgun.
I agree, but that's what I'm trying to put myself in that,
Correct.
that mindset.
Well,
and I think they
says,
think they're saving time.
Correct. When somebody speaks ultimatum, you only need to do 5 to 8 reps because you're going to get CNS fatigue and calcium ion discharge explosion and blah, blah, blah. And mechanical tension's the only driver of hypertrophy. And this is all you need to do. Never go over 8 reps. Like, it sounds like, and you speak in that authority, it sounds like you have the recipe and you only need to do 1 or 2 sets to failure. And I see it all online, and they all have the same build.
It's
right?
believable.
Yep. But it sounds
it
really
is.
good.
And
Correct,
very black
yeah.
and white.
Yes.
I found the answer.
Yep. And it's never, like, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Full stop. Just period. But with these evidence-based people, I would say the vast majority, I'm sorry, with the research-based people, the studies people, the vast majority, no, you don't know what you are looking at. I even have said on this show, and I will say it for the rest of my life, I don't even consider myself an expert in reading research, and I'm the one who's bringing research to our podcast. But what do I mean by that? I still know, I know study design, I know some statistical analysis, but I'm going to have Chris throw the study up right now. Here is a paper, How to Lie with Statistics and Visuals or Graphics. It was something along those lines. There's another paper about how they said, here are common statistical errors. Here's how to analyze it. So all these people who are study. First of all, most of them are just reading the abstract, especially based on the subject matter. Unless you are researching a PhD, you're not going to get access to the full study, full stop. There was a specific topic that I was researching for something. I submitted it through a chiropractic school, and maybe 1 out of 4 studies they were able to find for me. And that was from an academic institution. Also,
Wow.
do you know study design? Do you know what the fuck a kappa value is? Do you know what a p-value is? Do you know how you could weight a study in a meta-analysis? Do you know what cherry picking is? We already talked about absolute to relative risk ratios. So absolute to relative risk ratios, you tell me which one they're using in the clickbait title. If I do a certain exercise one way and I get 2% growth, and I do a certain exercise another way and I get 4% growth, I could either say that is a 2% improvement or a 100% improvement. You tell me which one people are using.
Sure.
It drives me up the wall. And then that doesn't even take into account that we know this one paper, I said it last episode, I'll say it again, of the 20 most cited strength and conditioning papers in our industry, 85% of them had statistical errors. Then you also bring in, you could find studies to pretty much fall on either line of the equation. We talked about, I found studies on high frequency versus low frequency. It's all the same. Same with, same even with nutrition. You want to know nutrition, what the research says? So long as calories, protein, and fiber are equated for, every single diet works the same in the long run.
Yeah.
With training, so long as volume is equated for, every single thing works in the long run. But then again, that's not being studied on bodybuilders. And then that doesn't even open up the rabbit hole of, are you enhanced or not?
Right.
Which is never going to be studied. There's all this different stuff, and it drives me up the wall. And then cherry picking. A lot of the authorities have some of the most egregious cherry picking I've ever seen. If you don't know what cherry picking is, let's talk about Ansel Keys. Okay. I'm going from memory. He was the guy who said fat is the devil and causing heart disease. He studied 22 countries and he only picked, it was 6 or 7 countries that followed his metric. He ignored countries such as France, who had significantly higher fat intakes and significantly lower cardiovascular disease. It later came out he was paid off by the sugar industry, and that formulated the low fat, high carbohydrate, high processed sugar thing that does seem to have caused issues. Now, here's another thing. Sugar, it's a really hot topic. I know we're going on a tangent, but sugar isn't inherently bad. However, if you eat a bunch of sugar, you consume on average 500 extra calories a day, 7 days a week. That's 3,500 extra calories. What's in a pound of fat? 3,500 extra calories. So it has to be taken into the context, but a lot of people will cherry pick, and these authorities cherry pick so egregiously bad. It's mind numbing. And guess what? Some 18, 19-year-old kid who's never taken a class in statistical analysis or research design, they have no freaking clue, right? I doubt 90% of people know what a kappa value is. And that's day one statistical analysis. And that's with meta-analysis, weighting studies, correlation, not causation. I could go on forever. I think I'm making my point is a lot of the show me the study people, I'm sorry, you have no business quoting research, because you know how long it takes for me to read a study? For the hypertrophy episode, I spent 17 hours, and I could have done double. I spent 17 hours to make the statements I made, and I have training in how to read studies, and I still had, okay, what is the statistical analysis? I don't know that stuff, right? That's my big thing is you're assuming the researchers know how to do statistical analysis. Guess what? The paper about how to lie and this other paper about common errors, there's so much pressure on the scientists. It's so hard. A lot of times they take the easy way out because it's overwhelming even to them. Stats is a mind, what, holy cow, it gets as complicated as it gets. Right? It's already hard doing the research. It's already breaking it down. but you could massage the data to say whatever the hell you want. And I can't tell you how many times you read an abstract, you go through the paper. That's not what the results were. They're just not. And then you have somebody saying, and again, everybody we mentioned by name, I think they're at least deserve to be able to talk in the space. I don't like how they go about it. I don't like the ultimatums, but they're all smart. They've all been around for a while, right? But they make a statement of, this machine grew way more muscle. You look at the study, it was like 1%. It wasn't even statistically significant.
Yeah.
Do you know what statistical significance is?
Well, and even just
Exactly.
getting into
So-
correlation versus causation, there's, we can
huge.
keep it more simple. How were you sleeping at that time? Did you have stress in your life? Were you paid to show up for the study? Was it 100% compliant? There's just so many variables, which is another reason that I have been so hesitant to rely on any type of study. I remember one that stood out real quick. Years ago, I was looking into clenbuterol because it was just so bad. And it was one study would, and I'm paraphrasing, that it basically would eat heart tissue like Pac-Man eats dots. And then another study said that it regenerated heart tissue for people with congestive heart failure. Like, Jesus, we got like two completely, entirely different. How does this even come together? There's no common ground. There's nothing in the middle. These are bipolar opposites. This doesn't even make any sense. And I remember that being kind of a turning point for me where I said, I'm just going to rely literally on trial and error. And I became, and this goes back to bro science. I've said this a million times. I'm going to say it 10 million more times, I'm sure, in my lifetime. I don't have a problem with the bro science moniker. I have a problem with the bro science moniker when people assume that bro science means, and it can, 3 19-year-olds who've been training for a year and a half are giving information or instruction on dieting or anything else. Someone who is not very well experienced. But when I give experience after being in the industry for 40 years, or Victor for 50, I think he's 50 years or so, a mind-numbing amount of time. I don't usually hear of people who have been in the industry longer than I have, which is not to make the claim that I've been the one in the industry the longest. I want to be very, very clear on that. But I don't hear that a lot. So I get his frustration. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. I get his frustration that he is not being, or he feels like he's not being given respect or credit for his experience over time, because he's got a lot of valuable information. Some I don't agree with entirely, but that's okay. I still see value in the information that he's putting out. So I can relate. I totally get it. Again, I would fall along the lines, if I went to hire somebody, and I did, incredibly intelligent, one of the smartest guys in the bodybuilding industry, as far as I'm concerned, but that's not why I hired him. I hired him because of his experience. The fact that he has spent so many years with the trial and error and knows what I need from him backwards and forwards. So there's a combination. You got a bright guy who has an academia background, not even sure how he feels about studies. I honestly don't know. But then he has that evidence and that experience of working with so many people at so many different levels that it's a no-brainer. So I get it. I would rather fall, if I'm going to spend my money or I'm going to trust someone to get knowledge from them, I would rather, just speaking for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but I would rather go with someone who has all that experience versus just the academia side. I don't see value. If I have to pick one or the other, I do not see the value in the academic. There's too many variables. There's too many ways, like you said, to misrepresent studies or to misread them or just plain not understand them. That's my position.
Yeah.
But I love that everybody's coming together, or at least it looks like we're starting to come together. and have these discussions and these debates. Or at least some people are willing to have those debates versus, and here's the thing. Like I said, I want to be clear on this. Trainers can do what they want to do. They can carry themselves the way they want to carry themselves. But you can't expect everybody to respect what you're saying and your opinions and your experience if you're not willing to back them up.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Completely agree. And then that is a little frustrating because say you're new in the space. You're like, well, I don't have the experience. All I have is academia. That's fine. You still, at least you have some sort of foundation,
Sure.
And then you just need reps. So maybe don't present yourself as an authority if this is something that you're brand new at, like 10,000 hours to be an expert. And then also we're in the age of marketing matters more than actual information and knowledge.
Sure.
And
no question.
Usually the people who market themselves what I consider ethically don't have the followings because they're not doing clickbait. They're not doing ultimatum statements. They're not being contrarian, right? Certain individual says deadlifts are a terrible hypertrophy exercise for your back. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I don't know where to go with that.
Otherwise. Yeah. But it's contrarian and it's blah, blah, blah. Also deadlifts are really, really hard. And then people will make up terminology just to create stuff. So a lot of people who portray themselves as study based.
Well, and a lot of people who portray themselves will go after the studies that fit their narrative.
Yep.
That's
exactly. Yep. So like exactly. So you could literally find, so ideally and I don't know how you go about this, but ideally you follow not one person, but several people. So that way you're getting multiple viewpoints. Now that could get really overwhelming when you're in the beginning. So in the beginning, I would say just choose one person and follow them for 3 to 6 months. I would say 6 months. I don't think 3 months is long enough. Do what they say for 6 months. Go to another person. Do what they say for 6 months. What did you respond better to? What did you prefer? What did you like? Then start formulating yourself. Like nobody wants to do self-experimentation and figure it out on their own. They want the answer. And remember, we've said it multiple times. It takes 10 years in competitive bodybuilding. 10 years. So nobody has an answer that's going to all of a sudden take that 10 years and put it into 2. It doesn't exist.
And ask the questions. If something doesn't seem logical, ask why. I'm not trying to toot my horn here. It's going to sound like it, and I get that. But I always tell my clients, the reason that I explain things to them and answer their questions is because I don't feel that clients come to a trainer anymore just for results, or they shouldn't. It used to be back in the day. I'm going to work with so-and-so because I want the results. There are too many trainers who can get results now. There are good trainers who will get results. There's a giant, I refer to it as a giant sea of turds, but in that giant sea of turds, there are a lot of good trainers. A lot of good trainers that you may never have heard their name because they don't have anything niche. They don't market terribly well, but they're good at what they do. What will separate that trainer or those good trainers from a successful trainer who will stay relevant and build a business and an income over time is passing on the knowledge and the experience that they have along with the results to those clients. And here's a giant red flag. If you ask your trainer why they want you to do something and they can't tell you or they don't tell you, I say if they don't tell you, they can't tell you. That's a huge red flag. If they don't know why, man, huge, not even a red flag, neon sign that's blinking while you're trying to sleep at 3:00 in the morning. And every time it blinks, it's a loud click or a buzz. I think that set a pretty good visual there. It's just something that as a client, I feel deserve. Honestly, I've said before, it justifies my fees being higher than the average person. I will spend that time to be able to explain what the whys and the hows are. And there's another thing. Clients or trainers who can't explain something most times will say something like, Just execute the plan. They won't say they don't know or don't question the process. Another red flag. That's basically saying I can't answer the question. Or it could be this. Maybe they can't answer the question. And you're not important enough as a client who's paying that trainer to take the time to be able to explain why.
If you can't explain something at a third grade level, you don't know it. Full stop.
Doesn't take that long to explain it. There are things that I can explain in 3 sentences. There are things that I'll explain that take a page and a half. Just depends. Depends on how invested that trainer is in you. And again, I don't want this to be an advertisement. Could have said advertisement. Could say frustrated or frustrated or hypertrophy or hypertrophy. It's not wrong. It's just a different focus on a different syllable. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. If you have anything to add, feel free. Jump in. I think we covered it.
I would warn people about following only one person for all the reasons we said above. And ideally you find people you have somebody who's in both worlds, but that's hard to find.
Sure.
So maybe you have, the 20, 30, 40 years of experience person. Maybe you have the academic person and you're taking information from both and you're trying it for yourself and you're seeing what works for you.
It's a science project, is it not? It's science.
Yep.
It is
100%.
bro science.
Yep.
But control the variables as much as you can with your training, nutrition, and your sleep and your recovery and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Do your own science experiment. And I'm going to go so far as to say you may not need any study. Or when you do read a study, it will back up what you're already doing and what you're already learning or what you have learned.
Yep. I will say it does seem like bodybuilders usually are ahead of the times.
Sure.
Like we usually are ahead. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed to be correct, but a lot of times people who have made waves, their stuff gets proven 3, 5, 10, 20 years later, right? Like Dante with loaded stretching. 20 years later, study came out showing that. He's like, yeah, like I said that 20 years ago. So,
yeah, but you got to be careful with that because someone out there may already claim the fascia stretching and they came up with it before Dante ever came up with it, that sort of thing.
Correct. And I was raised, you always give credit where you learn it from. So
No
that's
question.
why I always make a concerted effort to do that. And that is gone. That's extinct. That's absolutely extinct. And it drives me up the wall. Like,
and I think it's ego. It's ego driven, is it not?
Correct. And I'm like, why? Once again, same with you. Like if somebody changes their mind or is willing to have a conversation or gives, hey, I learned this from this person, I give them so much more respect. But you and I are not the average consumer. So
true.
We got to remember that, right? The average consumer, they want spoon fed. They want clickbait, sound bites, black and white. They want to drink the Kool-Aid. But if you're drinking the Kool-Aid and you're not getting the results you would expect, maybe change things up.
Agreed.
I think we're both smashing on we need to have a blending of bro science and evidence.
How is it that I forget this?
Every time. At least you are consistent.
Exactly. If nothing else, I am consistent. I think it's safe to say that it is. It's just a smash by the two of us. I should not assume that. I need to get better at that. So I apologize. I need to make a note of it that we officially need to smash or pass. Sorry about that.
But I do agree. I do think we're starting to see a little bit more conversations. There are starting to be a little bit more debates online versus the name calling and just the childish exchanges. Like, to each their own. You get a bigger following that way. I recognize that, but I don't want my following based on name calling and dragging.
Isn't that bizarre though when you think about it? That actually feeds people's attention. Bizarre. But maybe on the other hand, it's not. I mean, we see a fight and you see people standing around not helping.
If it bleed, it leads.
Yeah, exactly. Holding their phones while someone's getting the shit kicked out of them. It's just a very bizarre
Yep.
Society can be pretty bizarre sometimes.
The sweet music of love. We can no longer
10 questions. We do this every episode. For those who don't know, we ask the other person 10 questions. We try to be as quick and concise as possible so that we don't take up too much time. But it gives a little bit of insight into myself and into Dr. Marv outside of the industry. The questions can't be related to anything in the industry, can't be related to training, our job, nothing. It has to be personal. It has to be intimate. Does your wife, I love asking questions about your wife, by the way, because honestly, I don't know much about your wife, so I'm curious.
Yeah.
Does your wife prefer casual and chill dinner out if she gets to choose? Or does she or would she prefer getting dressed up for fine dining?
Casual. I'm always the one who's saying, can we dress up?
Oh, okay. All right.
So we are technically getting married next June 28th, but I call her my wife because we've been together for so long. It's just,
And that's why I call her your wife too.
Mhm.
I actually had up your wife / fiance. I went with wife.
Yep.
Fair enough.
And she looks good when she's dressed up, so I'm going to ask for that more often than not.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yep.
Number 2, do you drink at all, even on occasion? And if you do, what is your drink of choice?
Nope. I don't drink at all. Really boring. So
I'm
water,
the same.
diet soda. Started drinking energy drinks again, which I should probably quit doing that. Man, they are so much better than the energy drinks I used to drink back in the early 2000s.
Yes.
Holy
Exactly.
hell. I hadn't had one in probably 15 years. And then in Kairos room, it's like, here's a white monster. And I was like, monsters are gross. He's like, try that. And I drank it. I was like, this is the nectar of the gods.
Yes.
When did
And
they
it's
get
the
good?
best flavor of all the
Yes.
flavors they have out. Yes.
Yep.
The original is definitely the best.
Mhm.
Number 3, you live in Texas. What's your carry gun?
I don't have my Texas card yet. I actually chose to buy my dream car over getting a gun. So I still don't have a gun. I had a gun fund, but it went to the down payment. But at some point I need to, because one of my, with what I do as a chiropractor, obviously I work with a lot of people, and I have several patients who literally teach you like how to clear a house, like your GI Joe. So we're going to do that at some point. But I chose the car that gets delivered Saturday over a gun.
And what is it?
You got to wait and see.
Okay, fair enough. And you have to provide a picture then too.
Yep.
Cool. Number 4, pop, soda, or Coke?
Oh, soda. Yeah. I'm 3 generations removed from being a Minnesota farmer. So 3 generations ago, I would have said pop.
Yep.
But nope, it's soda.
Michigan and pop too. Actually, I'm not anymore, but I was growing up. Number 5, last concert you went to?
It was a string quartet playing 90s rock music at a candlelight concert, and it was awesome.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, if I come to Houston and I want the best barbecue in Houston, where are you taking me?
Oh, man. So I haven't gone there yet. We're actually planning on doing it this weekend. Supposedly a place called The Truth is the best.
Better than
patients have
Phil's
said
in
that.
San Diego? You'll have to let me know because you haven't had it yet.
Yeah. Usually now my personal favorites are all in the Dallas, Arlington area. Unfortunately, I've gone to several here in Houston. They're good, but they're not like, oh my God, good, which is kind of weird because you would think everything's good. But the ones in Dallas are better than Phil's, but Phil's is really respectable.
And Phil's is, I mean, that's nostalgic, right? That's just a San Diego thing, isn't it?
It's an icon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Number 7, do you own a pair of Crocs? Don't lie.
You know, what's funny is I had that on my question for you, and God, no, you will never see me wear a pair of Crocs.
I said the same thing. I'm wearing a pair right now because I needed slippers for the house that don't stink.
Is the sport mode on? Are you running?
Running?
Yeah, sport mode. You have the little handle on the back of the
Oh,
heel?
no. That's fun. No, they're just slip-ons. And you know, I said I'd never own a pair because they drive me nuts. But here's the one thing. I don't have stinky feet. I know that's TMI, but I can't wear Birkenstock because they stink for some reason. And I can't wear Uggs because of the material. They'll start to stink. Yeah. So I tried. I went through 3 pair in the last 6 months. Finally, I'm like, I need something that doesn't absorb or something. I don't know. So I'm wearing them literally right now.
That's funny.
Number 8, one thing in your fridge that I would be surprised is in your fridge.
Dang.
I thought that
Oh,
one
man,
might be hard.
Yeah.
And there might not be anything. Maybe it's just typical like old milk.
I really enjoy the Yasso frozen yogurt ice cream bars. So that's my sweet and so I do one of those and 2 sugar-free popsicles every night.
Nice.
The problem is I have conditioned myself, so on the road I have to buy them. Otherwise I have a hard time falling asleep. That's so pathetic.
Oh,
But
wow.
Pavlov's dogs and conditioning, it has worked with me. It's been that way for the last 15 years.
Rituals.
Yep.
Number 9, favorite flavor of a Hostess fruit pie ever.
None of the above. Not my favorite.
Really?
Yep.
I was raised on those. My parents sucked when it came to nutrition, but boy, was it good.
Yeah. I don't think I've even ever had one.
Wow, you must.
Yep.
You must, and you must report
right.
back.
All right.
And number 10, last roller coaster you rode, and where was it?
Oh God. Probably Six Flags and never again. So the Six Flags was closed down because it was at home school day. So friends knew the president of that. So they snuck us in. We did 6 roller coasters with no breaks in between. Your body needs the break from the G-forces. So by the time we did 6 in a row, she was going through chemo, which I was like, this is a terrible idea, but whatever she said she wanted to do, we did for obvious reasons. So we did 6 of them back to back. We both got sick. I will probably never ride a roller coaster ever again.
Wow. Yep. All right, that takes us to we have some winners.
Yes, we do.
Winner chicken dinner. We got some winners to announce.
Yep. So we're gonna let's do the exciting one first, where we are gonna do the Wheel of Fortune, spin the wheel for the Team Skip protein. And then we will also just name the winner of the Team Skip shirt and my online course for just commenting on the show. But let's do the question winner first. So
sounds good. And this is for April. This is for the winner for the month of April.
Yep. So here we go. And we'll put a cool drum roll, awesome visual. All right.
Oh, look at that.
Out of the way. So these are everybody answer questions. Let's see what happens. So let's see who's going to win. Click the spin.
And if you see a name up there more than once, that means we used more than one question, right?
Awesome. Yep. So Viking K Power 4430. You got yourself a bottle of Team Skip.
A tub of 3 pound. It's 3 pounds. Team Skip protein. We are going to bump it up to 5 for May, and I'm going to keep it at 5. You know what? Yep. I'm going to send him 5 pounds. What the hell?
Awesome.
Yeah. You know what the heck?
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll go with the 5 pounds. It gets 2 pounds of extra Team Skip protein. So nice. Viking Power, reach out to me. We'll reach out to you too at your YouTube, account or handle. But reach out to me if you see this first and let me know. I'm going to need your address and I'm going to need the flavor that you want of Team Skip protein. So get on TrueNutrition.com. Check that out. Let me know the flavor you want. We'll go from there.
Awesome. And then for commenting, and it was more for the algorithm, had to be that. The winner on that from YouTube is Cornelius Parkin 2401.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. He's actually been having some great discourse on the page with his insight. His resume is pretty impressive too. So
yeah, and a pretty cool guy. But he responds a lot. So I would imagine that it probably, because he has so many responses, it probably helped statistically helped out that he was in the drawing a little bit more. His name was in more than some others. So good deal.
So so awesome. So those are two winners.
We'll reach out to him as well. But if you hear this before we get to you, reach out to myself and Dr. Marv. I'll need your shirt size, color at teamskip.com. Let me know and I'll get that out ASAP.
Yep. And then I'll give you access to my online bodybuilding anatomy meathead biomechanics course.
Word. How's that for a dated word? Word is a dated word.
Yeah. Yep.
That goes back a little bit. All right. Do we have a question or are we going to wrap this up?
I think we could probably knock the question out super quick, and then we also start the May conversation. So, and I think it's just a fun conversation because in my mind, it's a lot of just like semantics.
Mhm.
But at Lucas.bodybuilding, observation, curious your thoughts on year 2. 5 sets of 10 with the same weight and failing at the 10-ish rep on the 5th set is still training to failure. Maybe getting there in a safer way, if slightly more fatiguing. Is that possibly better for the older, messed up guys like me? I'll let you lead that first, and I'll give you my thoughts.
Yeah, I think the older demographic, I think he's saying failing on the last set of the 5, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so it's like reps in reserve and then failing on the 5th set.
Yeah, I think I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I would tweak it a little bit. I think 5 sets is a lot. You could probably get to that failure set quicker than 5 sets, but at the same time, I like the idea of going to failure later versus or arguably a little late versus a little too soon. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good move. I don't take 5 sets. I take 3, sometimes 2, but I also don't count feeders. So I'll do feeder sets, but I won't count them as working sets. So if he's counting the working sets, yeah, that first set or 2 might not be, because it's not to failure, might not be terribly demanding. So yeah, I think that's a good call. I think it's a real good call.
Yeah, and I also think like, what's the context? Is he doing 3 movements for a body part? Is he doing 5 movements? Like
right.
15 sets versus 25 sets. That's a big difference.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do like if you're somebody who is not going to failure every set like I do, just because that's what I like, that final set, right? You're not going to do a drop set, your first exercise. Like when people, okay, drop set, the first exercise of the day. I'm like, you just shot your
yeah.
Like
You almost said it.
yeah, I caught myself.
You almost shot your
yeah, but like so yeah, I think that is a way. And once again though, like do it for, I think 3 months is the bare minimum 12 weeks of doing a certain training thing to see how it's working, unless it's causing pain or issues.
Sure.
Right. But like, yeah, the whole 8 to 10 week program thing is nonsense. Yet I have those on my website because that's what people want, but I go run it twice, please.
Yeah.
But not everybody follows that advice.
Well,
yeah,
and the assessment part is huge, because without assessing and just following the plan blindly, where you need to assess whether it's working or not, how well it's working.
But I do think, especially, and also like if you've been training for 15 years, those first 4 sets are going to look a hell of a lot different if you've been training for 15 weeks, right? So like as an older person, our version of non-failure training is most newbies' version of failure training.
Exactly. Well put.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome.
On that note, I'm going to take us out. We got to get to getting. This is Skip and Dr. Marv splitting. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell. It should sound a little something like this. And if you didn't like the show, just pretend you did. Like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell anyway. We want to hear your questions, feedback, and any ideas you have about future topics in the YouTube comment section. If your question or topic is chosen for the show, you'll go into a separate drawing, and we'll randomly choose one winner at the end of each month who will receive a 5-pound bag of Team Skip protein from TrueNutrition.com, just like Cornelius or Viking Power. Okay.
Power. Yep.
One of them did. Be sure to use the TrueNutrition.com link in the closing credits to save 10% on not just Team Skip protein, but every supplement they sell. Not only do I use my Team Skip protein with my clients, but other top prep guys have their clients use my protein because it's that good. Dr. Marv, how could someone reach out to you if they have questions or if they want to work with you?
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram at dr.marvin.saysdc. My office in the Houston Bay Area. I actually have a few openings this week. Normally you're waiting up to 2 weeks to start care. I do telemedicine all over Texas. If you're not in Texas, we can still do consults through theeducatedmeathead.com. Workout programs, the course, seminar recordings, whatever I can do to help, please let me know.
If you have too much skin, go to teamskip.com and you'll find all my contact information, including Team Skip merch. course, you can follow me on Instagram at Intense Muscle as well. Keep in mind, this is important. This is a team of 3, not 2. Chris is the enigma behind the scenes, and he's responsible for visuals and graphics, and he also plays a massive role in the creative process. This project would not work without him. So from all 3 of us, it's been a business doing pleasure with you. Join us again next week for another episode of Between Two
Two
Dumbbells.
Dumbbells.